If you follow Polestar's number scheme, 0 is their carbon neutrality efforts. 1 was their first production car, which was a plug-in hybrid. The Polestar 2 sedan was their first all-electric, and this is their first crossover, the Polestar 3. It is built on the same platform as the Volvo EX90, but promises to be a bit more of a sportier alternative, especially because it doesn't have that third row. How different is it though? Let's take this one for a spin and find out. When you first get behind the wheel of the Polestar 3, and you've had the fortunate privilege of being able to drive the Volvo EX90 within the past 2 weeks, there's not really much different. Interiors actually look very similar. I think that the main differentiator between the Polestar 3 and the EX90, other than some interior space and things like that, which I'll talk about in a minute, is exterior design. This is the same screen you'll find in the Volvo. It's reskinned a little bit differently, but it's the same Android Automotive software. It's the same sort of multi-dock kind of setup on the screen. There's an instrument cluster now, thank goodness. I like instrument clusters. That's customizable, so it can show you the level 2 ADAS, what it's doing, lines on the road, cars around you. It can show you either Google Maps or I believe Apple Maps if you have CarPlay connected, or just a traditional Polestar generic screen. But otherwise, it really does feel like the same place. Yes, I have an orange seatbelt in here. Some slight annoyances, I think, from when I'm directly looking at the steering wheel, is there's no icons on the steering wheel buttons. They're all touch sensitive, and it kind of shows you on the instrument cluster what you're pressing. But if you just look down at it, it's kind of dark, and I'm not really sure why. And it's kind of gloss black, just like the center console is gloss black. I find that personally annoying. This car has about 500 miles on it. It doesn't look bad yet, but if you were going to buy, I think my same advice on the Volvo would be here. If you do buy a car with gloss black interior pieces, go get them PPF'd immediately. Do not pass go, do not collect $200, because they will show even the lightest scratches. And they look awesome in press photos, but unless you have a detailer coming and washing your car every day, which if you do, send them my way, thanks. Driving experience, I guess this car is a little bit sportier. I actually feel like turn-in is similar on both. This has several different weightings for the steering wheel. I find the heavy setting too heavy. The standard and lighter ones are fine. This does feel probably a little bit sportier again compared to that EX90, but it's kind of hard to tell, partially because I think this car is so quiet inside. It's just as quiet as the Volvo in nearly, I think, every situation. If you start to get to speeds, highway speeds, maybe a tiny bit faster, you'll start to hear some wind noise, especially from the wing mirrors, but none of it, I think, is obtrusive, especially from a crossover. I really liked that BMW i5 that I was in recently, and that was super quiet, even at those speeds, but it's not pushing as big of a block through the air like you're doing here. It's quick. This performance version we're in, I think 0 to 60 is somewhere in the low 4-second range, if I'm not mistaken. But it doesn't necessarily feel quick. So even with its performance mode on, you put your foot to the floor, it really feels like the engineers are managing torque output to not to just more smoothly transition you into power, which is probably what most people prefer. But if you've ever driven any modern Tesla, they just seem to give you all the torque kind of right away, and that makes that car feel quicker. And so I would imagine that a Model X would feel quicker in a similar situation, even if they had similar sort of power outputs. I like this packaging. This particular, the Polestar 3 doesn't have a third row, so you get more second row space than you would, let's say, in the EX90. And they're probably not going to be cross-shopped at all. I keep mentioning them both because, one, I've driven them both. Two, there's a lot of familiarity in between both cabins. And 3, they're built on the same platform with similar performance and charging hardware and all of that. So I think there's a natural kind of comparison there. But so during lunch, we're trying to figure out sort of like what you'd compare this to. And some of my colleagues who are way smarter than I am brought up the BMW, the iX. And that probably actually does feel like it fits. The iX is a little bit bigger than like an EQE SUV. Has a decent amount of space in it. Pretty efficient for what it is. Now that is a dedicated platform for EVs, where the i4 and stuff aren't. But BMW is just really doing a really good job these days, I think, in whether it's a dedicated platform or not, making compelling, interesting, efficient, fun to drive EVs. And I think they have a lot to offer. I think there's more going on with their software. You can get Hans Zimmer does the score for it, so that's if you're in the movies or sci-fi, like that's clever. This interior is again very minimalistic in a very Scandinavian way, not minimalist like the modern Tesla is. Like, again, there's clusters and things like that. It's minimalist to be minimalist and not minimalist to save money, and I think there's a little bit of a difference there. But it is a nice place to be, and these launch cars, since they're being built here in the United States, all of the options and stuff are available. So we're actually able to have ventilated seats on this car, which we weren't able on the EX90 that we drove. And it is a pretty nice place to be. We had a couple of buggy kind of issues, just like some of my colleagues did on the EX90. Had a failure of the driver assist system at one point. It said, hey, go see a dealer. But then it didn't throw a code or anything, so I don't know what I would tell the dealer when I got there. But everything is sort of over-the-air software updatable. And the one thing that Polestar did, if you did watch my Volvo video, was Polestar actually gave us the key cards. So we didn't have to worry about phone as a key either working or not working. So it's about $5, $6, $7 grand cheaper to start than the Volvo. But this doesn't come with the LiDAR, and the LiDAR comes standard on all of the Volvos, even though it's not activated. Again, I don't think they're necessarily the same customer. Car looks good. I think it drives well enough. If you can find a charger that supports it, which you won't be able to, it'll do up to 250 kilowatts of charging. You need, I think, a 600 amp charger or 560 or something to get to that level. They don't exist really anywhere in the US, except for Tesla's version 4 superchargers, which there's like 5 total in existence. But it'll still charge fairly quickly, 10 to 80% in less than 30 minutes. And it definitely is more of a techie approach to this type of car. Again, I don't know if I think it is fair to compare it to the Volvo just because they are so incredibly similar. But if you're sort of in that EQE SUV market / iX, you should probably go drive this, especially if you tend to like maybe a little bit sportier of a drive. I don't like the EQE SUV like at all, so it would be split probably between this and the BMW for me. But that's me. If you do live somewhere where it snows like this, which is actually very unexpected, we're at the top of the Teton Pass heading back towards Jackson Hole, you're probably going to want to make sure that you spec your Polestar 3 with all-season tires instead of the summers that this one comes on. However, overall, the Polestar 3 delivers a lot of that EX90 experience. It's a little more buttoned down in the sporty aspect. The second row seating is definitely better, and I really do think that like between this and the iX, I think those are the two sort of premium all-electric SUVs that sort of share a similar design, a similar philosophy in performance, and a similar experience. I think that you should drive both if you're interested. This, as it sits, this fully loaded performance launch edition, which is built in South Carolina, is $93,100. However, it starts right around 84 grand, which is not cheap, mind you, but it does have all of the fun performance bits that you would expect on a modern Polestar. To learn more about that EX90 that I just talked about, click on the on-screen video link right over here.